we need to have a media that is responsible, that is, you know, that does try to dig out the truth and the facts, that is not just a propaganda organ in itself, and that truth matters.
This vanishing of truth has triggered a peculiar phenomenon across the American landscape. Private individuals have been following the example of alternative media, becoming bloggers, videographers, photographers, journalists. This new breed of volunteers hungry for thorough and honest news has become more vocal, publishing opinions and becoming the voice of a society aware of its own flaws. In their vital quest for identity, they have become active participants in society, searching for purpose and hoping to leave a mark.
Put up a sign. Simplest thing in the world. You know, the most basic communication besides talking. And I call this freeway blogging, which is like keeping a diary or a commentary on politics in the news on the internet. It's a running commentary. Like, when the news changes, I make a different sign. There's no voice from the left in this country. And so I thought, well, you know, then I guess it's my job. This country was based on the notion that anybody can say politically whatever they want to as many people as they want. This is a way of where one person can reach 1 million people. You know, I just got so pissed off because, like, the whole lead up to the war on TV, it's like, we're marching to war, we're going to have, like, you know, it's going to be exciting, it's going to be dramatic, we have, like, all these pictures, and we're going to be there for the action, you know, and it's like, fuck your action, you know, you're going to kill a lot of people. You know, I'm watching the world start to hate and fear America. What is that? You know, how does that make us strong? How does that help at all? You know, soon we'll have 6 billion enemies. You know, for some oil, then it's my job. I have to speak up. I have to say, you know, this is bullshit. We don't speak anymore. We watch TV. You know, everybody drives to work. They drive home. They watch TV. They go to sleep. They drive to work, they drive home. You know, there's no dialogue really anymore. The only dialogue is between the people who are on TV.
Such as United for Peace and Justice, Not in Our Name, Move On, and the Poor People for Economic Human Rights campaign. These organizations came to join in the protest and demand a debate on environment, education, social security, the media, the war in Iraq, and the alarming surge of poverty in the United States. Standing beside them, the alternative media will join in the struggle and serve as a megaphone for their demands, thoughts, and discontentment, a voice often excluded from mainstream media and thus removed from political discussion.
Some of the major network news, I think they hopefully have been shaken up into realizing the poor job they did in questioning the administration and keeping the country informed of the real facts.
Particularly around events like September 11th or the war in Iraq, you know, people have been forced to do their own homework because the American press did not cover and the journalists here did not report as much as even the foreign press was. People really feel like the news media wasn't there when the public needed it. And if you look at, you know, what a democracy is based on, it's based on an informed public. And if you don't have an informed public, then you can't have a healthy democracy.
You see a blossoming of an independent media movement, and you see a rejection of mainstream media. There are some people in the independent media movement who think the mainstream is just not reformable. There's no way to win there. Their views aren't going to be heard. Their perspectives won't be respected. So they put their energy into going to making media, and making media that they think reflects the viewpoints that are rooted from the mainstream media. So if you look at some independent media, it's going to seem very politically one-sided. I think it's a response to the poor performance of the mainstream media. So what they're doing is saying, if you're not going to cover these things, that's going to be our bread and butter.
And it really matters when the media acts as a conveyor belt for the lies of the administration. In a time of war, in a time of invasion and occupation, those lies take lives.
Never a golden age of media, that we always had big commercial media back to the turn of the century, where so-called yellow press, you know, the William Randolph Hearst, one of the great media barons, said, you know, you give me a war, you give me the pictures and I'll give you a war. You know, the media was used to promote war. There's a long history, you know, of this up through the Iraq War.
The best calling in journalism is something that we owe it. We owe it to the society to do, because the world we live in is only getting more complicated. At the same time as there's this massive disjunction between the complexity of the world and the kind of attention that television and the medium pays to it.
Once you see how much stuff is out there that, you know, the average person who goes home every day and watches television is not going to be exposed to, it bothers you, and it inspires you to try and get that information out to these people.
It's never that easy. It's never that easy that one person's point of view or one political point of view is the answer. It's always somewhere in the clash of ideas that truths emerge.
If we could help influence what the mainstream media covers and reach millions of more people with that story that way, that to me is one of our major roles, really, to be a watchdog for the media.
That's where media activism hopes to put its pressure, to wake up people in the mainstream media to say, you're not doing your jobs, you're not being critical and aggressive enough in questioning this administration, in questioning the conduct of the war in Iraq, and presenting the reality of occupied Iraq. Those are the things that you want to push on the mainstream media and hopefully affect their coverage. I think that movement will just grow. And if the mainstream media continues to decline in quality and in its value, the independent media only can consider that a bigger opportunity.
The importance of an alternative independent media that's not owned by a large corporation and that is not worried about its bottom line profits as its main reasons for being in the media business. I think it's more and more important, and that's why I think there's more and more of a role for alternative media, because no matter what direction the mainstream media goes in the short run or the long run, there's not going to be enough critical, hard coverage and probing.
You need to know what the mainstream is saying, and you should know what independent media are saying. I think there's a way to consume both and still keep your head on straight.
What's not being talked about is in the mainstream media is who the tens of thousands of protesters are and why they're taking to the streets during the convention. In an open letter to journalists released yesterday, protest organizers urged the corporate media to ensure fair, balanced, and accurate coverage of the demonstrations at the Republican convention.
If you're talking about the richest country in the history of the universe as we know it, why doesn't everybody have health care? Why isn't there really a superb educational system?
They're like wasted billions of dollars on an unjust war where our brothers and sisters that are poor kids that wanted to just get money for college, that are poor kids, got sent over there to go fight against poor kids in Iraq. So you have the poor fighting the poor for rich people. The rich people control this country. The corporations buy laws and they buy politicians. None of them are worried about us. People that can control and manage the perception that everything's okay here, that there's no problems here. And that's what they want you to think. They don't want people to know that there's people here they're going hungry, don't have enough to eat, that there's people sleeping in the streets, you know, that people can't get a job here. We have a human right just by being born to food, clothing, shelter, a living wage job. You know, these are all things that are rights, you know, that we're guaranteed in the Universal Declaration of Rights, but the United States does not live up to it.